Patrons, subscribers, fans, followers from around the world, welcome to your newest edition of the IR4 podcast. I'm Jeremy Alexander Newsome, and this is Brian Masterson. Went on a little bit of a 2-week hiatus, went on vacation. We're back, and now we want to discuss the future of healthcare. Interested to know what you all think as listeners. Brian, what do you think about the future of healthcare, man?
I think obviously tech is going to be a huge component, if not the only component. But, looking at the whole industry, there's a lot of flaws from insurance to big pharma. So it's going to be interesting to see what answers we'll get and what vision we'll get from an inside, industry insider.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to interview someone in this industry in the not too far distant future. We have a great episode coming up next week with a lady who's been working, not in this field specifically, but definitely in the blockchain field, how that might revolutionize healthcare industry. A lot of it's going to come down to, and some of it's going to be a little bit of a political answer too, with free healthcare. I don't think I've ever asked your opinion on that, Brian. What's your opinion on universal healthcare in America?
I don't know enough about it to provide an educated assessment, but I would say, I'm all for it. I think that's great, but I do think, what we would need to do is study other countries and the the pros and cons to what, what the growing pains are with it and what comes along, because there's some just huge companies that make an exorbitant amount of money just off healthcare insurance.
Yeah.
And, when you look at Obamacare and whatnot, I mean, navigating through the marketplace and doing that type of stuff is just insane. So I think, it's not really a huge technological advancement, but I think it can help the industry in whole have people can have better access to healthcare, which I think is hugely important. And that doesn't even take into consideration the mental aspect. Mental health care is a huge other topic that we can talk about. But I'm not opposed to free healthcare by any means, but can there be a hybrid of both?
Sure. What do you mean? So a hybrid of because
if you can qualify for free healthcare, fine. And we have Medicare and Medicaid, but do those really do anything for anyone?
Yeah. So I think the interesting thing is it comes down to if free healthcare, nothing is free, right? There's no such thing as a free lunch. We as taxpayers are just going to have to pay more. So would you pay 20% more for your healthcare or for taxes if you could get if other people were going to get the benefit of that?
And then we steer into a tax conversation and tax breaks and where is our tax money going? And I think we need to fix a lot of things from a political and governmental standpoint before we can really dive into free healthcare.
Yeah.
There's so many flawed parts to the entire system of things that I think it needs to be tackled as a whole. But currently the future, this is the economic portion of healthcare, right?
Yeah.
And it's a huge concern, or not a concern, but I think a huge challenge that we face. Access to prescription drugs and, all the researching that goes on with drugs. There is a huge financial incentive in healthcare. But when does it become too much? And when do we need to really take into account the human who's actually sick or who's in seek of that care?
Yeah.
When does that become most important?
Right. And that's the biggest that's the biggest topic, because at some level, if you have people who are very healthy, they're not going to be paying nearly as much as the people who aren't as healthy, right?
Right.
Or vice versa.
And maybe there's so many different, and I guess this would be a good segue or bridge into the technology aspect, but there's so many ways to monitor health. And, think about the Fitbit. And if there was a way to incorporate tracking your caloric, not even caloric intake, but just the foods and everything you're consuming and the exercise you do, if there's a way to take all that data and put it into a database that can output, okay, this person's actually really living a healthy lifestyle. Everything from even tracking, your GPS and your, how fast you go, how many speeding tickets you have. Like, there's high risk drivers. So when you aggregate all that data into one central location, I feel like you can put together a risk profile for each person, a health risk profile, if you will. And not only does that help better determine whether that person qualifies for a cheaper or more affordable healthcare plan, but riskier people. Right now, the marketplace, do you use tobacco?
Mm-hmm.
And you can say no, but
Mm-hmm.
There's
no,
how are you going to know?
There's no background check on that.
Exactly. So if you really have true data that you can look at that you know is real, monitor that, then you're looking at, who the high risk people are and charge them more because they're going to be going to the doctor more. Are you overweight? Where you fall in your percentile as far as what's the right weight for your height, for your age, for your sex, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a multiple of different factors that we are starting to gain access to, that can go towards really tailoring a healthcare plan per individual or family.
Yeah. And that's where it comes down to, is all about the family. That's the government, the American dream, if you will, the house, the kids, yep, the wife, the family. And it can get incredibly expensive to have health insurance for a family.
I think the plan I was looking at today, because open enrollment's going to start here soon.
Yeah.
I was like $2,000 a month for my wife.
Yeah.
And she goes to the doctor or the hospital because she's pregnant, but like, I haven't gone to a primary care physician in 10 plus years. I take care. I think I take care of myself, and maybe I've gone to an urgent care once or twice, but just be, conscious of your health and what you're eating, and, shaking your hands with people. It's flu season, things of that nature, taking the appropriate medicines and intaking the nutrition and working out. There's so many things that can allow for you to be healthy, or attribute to good health. But I just feel like people are careless. And you know what? It does come down to, think of other industries and their impact on healthcare, such as big pharma, but also think of the food industry and the amount of just shit that when you're eating a bag of Cheetos and drinking a 2 liter of Pepsi every day and eating pizza for dinner, like, you're not going to be a healthy individual. You're going to be more prone to health risks.
Right.
And so there's a lot of correlation between all these industries. That's why it's not so easy to say, hey, should we have free healthcare or not? Because I think America is the most unhealthy country in the world. And because of that, people are going to be dying or getting more sick. And if we do free healthcare, guess what? Our taxes and everything is going to go skyrocket, because now we're paying for we as an American people would be paying for the most unhealthiest country in the world. So I think, kind of full circle with the free healthcare statement. I think there needs to be a lot more challenges and a lot more problems we need to solve before we just say, free healthcare for everyone.
A lot of challenges, a lot of problems to overcome, for sure. What about the cost of going to school to become a doctor or a physician? Is that something that at some point you think does that have an impact on the cost of healthcare as well here?
It's a very good point. And I think it absolutely does. When someone goes to medical school, no, I think that's a very huge impact, medical education, because you're paying exorbitant amount of fees, not fees, tuition, and you're getting a degree, but how is one going to pay that back so quickly? And then we've had this conversation before about higher education. Getting just a bachelor's degree in any old business administration, that doesn't. Student debt, I believe, is going to be the catalyst to a new economic meltdown.
Yeah.
It is insane right now.
So much. I think I say so much. I mean, there's only a few trillion in student loan debt.
Yeah, only a few.
Only a few trillion. And the biggest challenge with it is that students, you can't file bankruptcy to have that cleared.
Right.
As I'm sure you know. And that's going to be a problem, because if they can't file bankruptcy to get those cleared, and they just don't pay it, what's going to happen?
Right.
I mean, at some point, someone's paying for that. So is it going to be the government that has to come in and bail that out, or is it students who just go, "Sorry, dude, I'm not paying that"? I mean, I know 40-year-olds who still have student loans.
Yeah. So when you default on your student loans, what's going to happen?
Yep. Yeah. What does happen? I mean, they're not going to come take away your degree.
They can't take away your degree. Can they come take away your home and your car and all that? I mean, yeah, but is that a
Is that the answer to
is that an ethical thing to do?
Sure.
When we are pushed, when our students are pushed to seek higher education, and then they go to college and absorb all this debt, and then guess what? Okay, what if you're renting though? What if you're renting an apartment or something, and all these college kids who just are fresh out of college, and I know we're tangent lining here, but that's fine, and you're renting and you really don't have any assets. I can't pay anything.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Right. I mean, it's something that has to be addressed, though, because some of the biggest challenges with the healthcare costs are the schooling costs, and also the big one that a lot of people overlook, in my opinion, is the insurance that a lot of doctors and hospitals have to carry for like malpractice insurance.
Yeah.
Because we're so lawsuit happy. If someone goes to the doctor and, oh man, my leg, I was going to lose it anyway because of gangrene, but you cut it off, and then I got a staph infection. I was in the hospital for another 3 weeks. So I'm going to sue you for that, even though I had to go to the hospital anyway. Those lawsuits are racking up tons of bills for doctors and physicians who really just are human. They're trying their best. They're overworked most likely anyway. I'm not going to say they're underpaid specifically. I mean, they get, obviously, doctors and lawyers, they get paid pretty well. But they also have a lot of debt to overcome, and a lot of
and also think about what medicines they push onto patients, And again, I was going to segue into technology earlier, but we stayed on track, and now I guess I'll segue into the mental health aspect. But when you go to psychiatrists, or even emergency rooms if someone's suicidal or whatnot, the immediate response is to provide antidepressants or some type of neurological numbing agent, where people just go through life in a very zombie-like state. When, again, you go back to not relying on substances such as illegal drugs or alcohol. You're working out, you're living a healthy lifestyle, your consciousness, you're conscious of your well-being, and you're doing good practices and doing fulfilling work and things of that nature. Listen, I know that people would disagree with me by saying this, because people are relying on some type of antidepressants and not reliant, but that is an aid. But when someone becomes so fixed on needing that, how is that not a form of addiction? Just like the opioid epidemic that we've discussed before on this podcast. When and then now there's this whole holistic approach where people are saying MDMA and mushrooms and psilocybin can help mental health patients, and there's studies that are showing that is to be true. But then when does it come to a point when big pharma takes over the patent, or the what do you call it, the licensing rights, or the rights to sell psilocybin?
Right. And that's going to be that's something that they're working on, trying to figure out the herbal remedies and the holistic approach to make things better, because it's less expensive right now than a lot of people going to patients, going to primary care doctors. I'm with you, by the way. I have a primary care doctor, but I don't go to him. I know who he is. I think the last time I went was like 4 years ago, because I had to go. I don't remember why I had to go, but that was forever ago. At least 5 years. And, they don't, I mean, at the same time, is it necessary? Could they catch something? a lot of the doctors, the physicians, the primary care physicians, they're really good at tracking the things that you mentioned, like the caloric intake, the weight, your weight, your chest size, your stomach size, and they can kind of help keep those data in line and figure out how well you're doing, how healthy you are. They kind of keep you updated. Again, a lot of people aren't doing them. So how would those people know how well they're, how healthy they are if they don't go? They haven't gotten any care because it's too expensive to go. And
Right.
that's that's the biggest challenge is if they had at least some program where, okay, it's totally free once a year, under
Just
health.
once a year. How crazy is that?
Yeah, just once a year. Give me one time a year where I can go and get a primary care. Because right now, if I go, I have to pay some type of deductible.
Right.
Something. I mean, and then the hospital, or not the hospital, but the doctor is going to send me a bill for XYZ that my insurance didn't cover. It's probably going to be like $300. I mean, so the whole thing is going to cost $500 to go. Where in some countries, $500 will get you like a hip replacement.
Right.
Yeah,
it's insane, man. It's and it's funny that we live in the healthcare mecca of the United States. It's just like the amount of healthcare companies and professionals that are here is insane. And I think there's a lot of good people who are trying to work for the betterment of the actual human race and species, but when you're financially motivated to pay off all those debts that you've acquired in medical school, or you have to take care of your home and your family, and you're living this lavish lifestyle, and they may not, I don't know, but I just feel like they're incentivized more financially than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Some doctors. But when you're prescribing people these medicines and Big Pharma's cutting you a check because you've pushed out all their different products, almost like a commission check, it's absolutely insane. So is there ways to separate that where doctors aren't getting any type of back pay on the product they're selling, and then that again incentivizes them to really push out? Why can't we hold doctors accountable for saving lives? Why can't a doctor get a bonus when they save a life? It's all about incentivizing and just putting together the right incentive packages for people to be healthy, for doctors to save lives. Curing a patient. If a doctor prescribes certain medicines and people become addicted to an opioid, then shouldn't their repercussions fall back on that doctor? If are you monitoring their well-being, or you just keep running prescription after prescription after prescription? That's why I think everyone should be. We need to find out what is the most important thing that each party involved would benefit from for a collective whole. And then that's when we start looking at universal healthcare and things of that nature. But the capitalistic mentality and the way our country operates, I think we let healthcare go a little bit too far, and I think we let it get a little out of control.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have, and I think that there's going to be some definite changes in the future. I don't know how soon, because there needs to be, as we've been talking about today. And what I'm really interested in seeing is if doctors begin to get replaced by robots, or you have robotic instruments that you have just one doctor who can control 9 different instruments, whereas that would be like 10 different people. Could that cut the cost of healthcare just because of the type of workforce that's going to be needed? And
I think, we've already seen a little bit of that through and they're not, it's not artificial intelligence or really, humanoid type of robot, but ventilation systems, AEDs where you just, it's a box and you strap on the two shock pads onto the body, and then you just stand back and you let the machine bring that person back to life. So we're seeing the advent of to what I think you're talking about, and I think another thing we'll see before, you have a robot in a room with 9 different scalpels and utensils working on a body is augmented reality. And I saw a very cool video, totally unrelated to healthcare, but immediately thought of healthcare was this guy had a smaller size modeled down car. And then he got on his iPad and opened up the app, and like he was developing this app, opened it up, and then it had, like, when you saw the car, it had all these different like buttons or indicators that kind of like a bubble that pointed to one thing, and when you click on that bubble, it pops out, like the wheel popped out, and then had a 3D imagery, and then you could spin it and whatnot, and then one button you looked at it, and it actually showed the inner workings of the car, the seats, and that. So you were able to look at all the inner workings and all the inner mechanics of this car just from holding up an iPad through augmented reality. And I think pacemakers, things that are invasive can be monitored, or we can look at the body. It's kind of like an X-ray, but in a different fashion, which would be insane. There's actually a company I was trying to help fund up in Canada a couple years ago who had 3D imaging of the spinal cord, and when you're doing back surgery, because that's such a sensitive area, obviously, is your spinal cord.
Yeah.
But being able to project 3D imagery and use augmented reality to really help surgeons or doctors, I think we'll see very soon, and that's going to be very cool to see. I mean, even if it's a radioactive material, which they may, I think this is done through an MRI, but you put not radioactive material, but essentially dye into the blood system, go into the MRI, and then it can track, where there may be, and there's probably some healthcare people laughing at my ass right now because this stuff probably already exists, and I'm explaining it like a schlup, but but I think it's going to be crazy to see the advancements in the technological. I mean, that's why we started this thing, right? It's because this is fourth industrial evolution, and it's to see the impact technology is having across all sectors is awesome, but I don't think we've nearly seen what technology can do in healthcare. Just
not even close. Yeah, I don't think close. I think it's something that's still the technology that's been focused on a lot in healthcare is keeping patients alive longer, which is obviously a very important aspect of the technology. But not so much technology has been, at least in my unprofessional opinion, has been poured into, like I said, making the doctor's job easier, making it faster, making it better, making it more safe for them to do their procedures, and keeping it where it's something that you can have a super high success rate for all of your surgeries. They've gotten insanely better just over the last 200 years. We've realized that, oh wait, there's bacteria on, like in the Civil War, which wasn't that long ago.
Dude, it's nuts.
Yeah, you're just having people just saw off your leg, no problem.
And that is just a couple hundred years. Think of how long man has been around.
Right.
I mean, we've seen this short advancement in healthcare just in this short amount of time. Think about what's going to happen in the next 50 years. And that's just like 25% of the last 200. And we will see, and the say this almost every podcast, it's an exponential growth rate. So it's happening quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. So what we may see in the next 25, 50 years is even more so advancement than we have the last 200.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Without question. I mean, because in the next 50 years, wow, we've come so far in the last 50 years, just in the last 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we're curing multiple diseases with vaccinations and protecting just swaths of humans from certain types of bug bites and, not malaria necessarily, but certain types of malaria, certain types of just diseases that you get from animals and rats and birds. And man, I mean, just the amount that's going to be coming down in the future over the next 50 years will be huge. And a lot of it might even come down to the cell therapy, cloning, being able to do some DNA.
Stem cells. I mean,
Yeah.
my wife and I were looking into taking the umbilical cord and the stem cells from that and freezing that. And it's expensive, but we could essentially have frozen stem cells for our child given in the future, whether something happens, heaven forbid, we have access to stem cells. But stem cells and what the capabilities that they have are insane. And you have to go to Mexico or outside the country to get stem cell treatment.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. I know. And is that something what's your opinion on why that's forbidden in the U.S. or not even forbidden, but looked down upon pretty strong?
Because I don't think companies and government more importantly, have been able to structure a way to where they can be profiting from the treatment. And I don't know if that's companies not wanting to comply with the government, so they're not allowing it, or they just haven't found the right company to partner with. But it is a very treatable. I think it's a very awesome treatment, proven treatment that, again, we don't. I mean, why the hell is marijuana and cannabis and CBD oil and things that aren't even related to drugs and hallucinogenics or THC or anything like that? Why is that still a Scheduled I drug? It just makes absolutely no sense to me. A
lot of it is government. A lot of it's government policies, and like I said, a lot of it came from the whole issue with hemp. Really stems from back in the early 1900s, the lumber industry, because you can have so much more creation with hemp. Well, I should say so much more, but you have a lot more creation with hemp as opposed to lumber. And the lumber companies at the time were bigger. They saw that and they squashed it quick because they said, we don't want that. We want to make sure that doesn't happen. So they lobbied against it and more or less made it to where it is now. At least not marijuana, just hemp in general.
Yeah. So I think, we, and I probably sound like I'm just some liberal or some type of,
you
libertarian, if you will, who, wants to always improve on the betterment of our country and but we're all in the same country. We're all in the same boat, and we can sit here and bicker back and forth between government, with the government, two people opposing it, whatever it may be. But in order to take the appropriate steps forward, we need to unify. We need to look out for the best interest of ourselves, because right now, I think we as a country are our own worst enemy, and we are so worried about offshore and non-domestic type enemies, but we are killing ourselves. And that goes back to student loans, the insurance side of things, the medical advancements and the delay in medical advancements because of bureaucracy. There is so many things impeding us really moving forward and prospering as a collective whole, and we're the ones limiting us from doing so, in my opinion.
Wow. Interesting. I mean, when you say we are the ones, I mean, do you mean who do you mean?
The United States.
United States. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a super interesting topic. I'd love to know what our listeners think about it. If you guys want to post any comments and let us know what your thoughts are, because again, this topic could go as long as you need to. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about asking questions is your goal is to learn and to grow and to figure out new things and to create new brain waves. I think at the end of the day, though, one of the biggest challenges will be the money issue, the simple monetary, like you mentioned, the economic bridge between how we get to pay for other people who need healthcare. So, for example, I think I'd be a great candidate to pay higher percentages of taxes.
But people aren't like you, my friend.
Yeah, well, it's true. But I mean, yes and no. But I mean, I'm thinking like since I'm healthy, and I can pay more for other people, then let me just go ahead and do that because I don't need it right now. And when it comes my turn to need it, then other people will be able to help me out.
Well, this is actually so there is a healthcare program like that. It's called MedShare, and it's a Christian ran type of medical insurance program where you pretty much pool everything, but you have to sign all these disclosures and
Yeah.
You're not going to smoke, you're not going to do this, and you're a Christian and all of that, which it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
But one of the caveats is that you can't drink. So I am definitely not eligible for that.
So you're out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we look at, and why not look at smaller systems and networks and try to see what is useful. I mean, run case studies or simulations and see what is most beneficial and see what isn't, and then try to scale it and see if it applies and all of that. But I think, well, no, I lost my train of thought. But I was in agreement. I was definitely in agreement with you. I think something needs to change economically in order for us to have true intentions for the betterment of education, big pharma, actual healthcare. So absolutely, when you kind of it's funny when you take the financial component of anything, you really start to see what the good is behind everything.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is a lot of people do. The challenge is a lot of people do blame big pharma, but at the same instance, I mean, big pharmacy is providing so many jobs. They're providing, so much for so many people. A lot of people make a lot of good livings off of that. And so then you're talking about, you're going to be cutting into the people, pharmaceutical sales reps are going to be cutting into, I mean, Eli Lilly, Bristol Myers Squibb, Boehringer Ingelheim. These are just massively large companies all in the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, you're talking, how do you get companies with giant motives to see different perspectives and to maybe help out differently? Maybe companies like that, if they are supporting big pharmacy and they are supporting doctor kickbacks from pharmaceuticals, maybe they have a specific different tax bracket that they're putting money into that can help out the medical system. I mean, it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, that's above my pay grade.
Yeah, same here.
But and I know one topic or one component we haven't hit on is the international healthcare system, and the amount of people in need across the world is unreal, and not having access to clean water, food, just little things like being able to, and getting aspirin or ibuprofen for a fever or things of that nature. Just simple things that we take so much we take such for granted. These people don't have access to, and UNICEF, and I don't know how. I haven't done enough due diligence on the Red Cross to give an educated opinion on them, because I've heard two sides of stories from a negative to a positive. But I think there is definitely some international efforts that need to start happening as well, and that is way above what I'm qualified to talk about. But maybe in the future we can get someone who can really help us understand.
Agreed, and that's why I love the Bitcoin initiative, because it is so international, and it does bring so many people across different borders together. That is, a global currency, if you will, with no governance, with no one party saying what they can and cannot do with it, what it can and can't, how it's fluctuated, how it's controlled, how it's printed, how it's manipulated. And there's so many projects like that we've worked on in the past and we've interviewed in the past that are trying to do the international help. But then it comes down to is it America's problem to fix all the other issues in the world? Is that our goal? Are we supposed to? Do we have to? What about other countries? And you talk about NATO and then the UN, and then you have so many of those directions as well to go down.
Yeah, I think it needs to be a global initiative and a global effort. And I think we are entering a point in human evolution where we are, I believe we are starting to get along a little bit better, and we have our own problems here in America, right? Think of every country as, its own community or its own person or its own entity, because it ultimately is. We have our own problems, just like every person has their own problem. But, who is facing the most struggles from top to bottom, and how can the ones on top assist the ones on bottom?
Yeah.
When you look at the G7 or, like you said, the UN, the ways of thinking have been so monotone and so very vanilla for the past couple decades. I think there needs to be a fresher, new approaches to and critical thinking towards how we can solve these problems. I don't think there's enough critical thinking going on. I think everything has been very again financially incentivized for a lot of these different organizations. So if we can apply some true critical thinking and some true incentive programs, why should America go help this other country? Well, at the end of the day, it's because you should treat others how you want to be treated, and you should want to help other people. I think that's the point why we're here. We want to help other people. And if people can't understand that or see that, who are in positions of power, then that makes me very sad for what this is all about. But got a little philosophical there, which
that's all.
You can mean too.
It's true though. It's true. At some point, you have to find out what is the mission, what's the point behind everything. And I don't think it's going to be a president that can handle that. I think it's going to have to be a collective group of people, and it's going to have to be someone, one person's not going to be able to handle it. So I don't think it's going to be a president who's going to be able to come in and go, all right, let me just change all of that and fix all of that, because the rudder is too small to steer such too big of a ship.
Correct.
To me,
absolutely.
there's too many factors pulling it in, and I don't know what that collective group looks like. I wish I did, but I don't think anyone does right now. But at some juncture, maybe it is going to be some of the cryptocurrency specialists and some of the people who start working on decentralized solutions, where you can take out a lot of the bigger issues and remove some of the overarching financial pillars that are holding people down. Because once you, like you mentioned earlier, once you take away the financial spectrums and a lot of it, then you really see the true errors, and you really see what's actually happening behind the curtain.
Exactly. Yeah. If we can reveal that, I think that would very much help the advancement across all sectors, including healthcare. But yeah, the financial component can be an evil one, and also a very beneficial one. It's just I guess it's all on how it's structured and how people are compensated. But like you said, the blockchain, I think. So there's a company called Hashed Health here in Nashville, greater Nashville area, and they run an event called Distributed Health, and it is probably one of my favorite. I went to the conference 2 years ago. It is one of the most awesome, forward-thinking type of events I've ever been to in healthcare. And some of the things they are working on are so unbelievably cool that once they really get some legs and take to market, I think we're going to really start to see a 180 in the space, or at least a 45-degree turn.
You need to get him on the show, man. Do you have any contacts over there?
Yeah. John Bass is a CEO. I've connected with him a few times, but yeah, we'll get him on there. I think he started the company too.
Wow.
Definitely CEO, but yeah.
Man, that'd be great, and I'm sure our listeners would appreciate that, because, like I said, our goal is to continue helping create brainwaves. I think we did a good job of that today. Good 40-minute discussion, Brian.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit of spurts of information, but I think we did a good job, more or less, creating again some critical thinking elements. Think about ways to improve. Because from these conversations, whether it's someone who we're asking questions with and they're providing answers, or just you and I spitballing, there's opportunities in these conversations where people can really grab onto something, sink their teeth into it, and find a solution for a challenge that we're talking about. Sometimes we come to those solutions on our own and we think, oh, brilliant business idea, but there's no limitation in what we can do as individuals if we really want to. But to make the huge impact globally, I think we need to start working together. So listen, if you have business ideas or what's the word? Start
Philanthropy.
philanthropy. I can never say that word.
Philanthropy.
Philanthropy.
Close enough. Yeah.
But or if you're a part of a 501c3 or some type of nonprofit,
Sure.
we'd love to have those people on as well. This isn't
Absolutely.
we do focus on new wave technologies, and with all that and new businesses, and there's a huge capitalistic approach to it. But it's awesome to hear what 501c3s and nonprofits are really doing, because I think that, again, you take the financial element out of it sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and you really, because that's an open book policy, so you really get to see where financials are going. And I know there's ways to hide money and move money, but it's still a step in the right direction, because you just realize what the true incentive is for behind that entity. So
Right.
but no, great discussion. I think we can definitely spark some conversation with our listeners.
Yep.
And spark it yourselves. Go out there and share these ideas and thoughts with other people, and you spread the brainwaves.
spread the brain waves. On that note, folks, we're out. Thanks so much for watching and tuning in and supporting the IR4 podcast. You guys rock. We'll see you later.